All right. Greetings from the Dark Continent. Conscious Caracal here, or Adams Fun Sale. Back again for 2022. We had a very interesting year behind us with 2021, but now 2022 is looming. There's a lot of stuff I know, especially for my American listeners tuning in. A lot of stuff on your horizon, but also my South African listeners. Our future is not looking too uneventful, if I can put it that way, either. So, firstly, maybe I should just get into some basic admin. Welcome back to Stream of Consciousness. This is the first episode of 2022. Really, last year was a amazing year for Stream of Consciousness and this channel. We really had some episodes that I think did exceptionally well. I'm very chuffed. I'm very satisfied with how last year went for the channel. And this year, I hope we can build on that. I hope we can create more content this year that people can use in their daily lives, content that people find interesting, that type of content you'd like to either listen live or even just content that you listen to on catch up when you're driving to work or wherever you're going. Something you can put in the background that you can get some interesting information and takes and perspectives on. So, guys, welcome. I know tonight's audience is probably not going to be that massive, seeing as my channel has been inactive now for the past month or so. But that's because I was on holiday. Had a very busy year, so that holiday did treat me well. Maybe before we get started, I shouldn't cause too much turbulence here with my table. Just let people know that we are live. But yeah, let's see if we can build an audience here tonight. Like I said, I'm not expecting a very large audience, seeing it is the first show of the year. You need to start building momentum, but we will start talking about or analyzing the year ahead in just a moment. So yeah, I just sent out that tweet to inform people. Let's start off with the title of today's episode, 2022, starting with an omen, and I'm going to put that on screen now. I'm just going to greet everyone in chat so far. Paula, thank you very much for tuning in, and 900T16, Happy New Year, Happy New Year, man. Thank you very much for tuning in. New year, new me, if I can really pull that cliche out. Stopped smoking at the end of 2021. I've been clean for 18 days now, quit cold turkey. So I think that's going to be my first challenge at the beginning of the year. But also for AfriForum, there's a lot of stuff in the future that we're going to be focusing on. Some big court cases that involve Julius Malema on the horizon into the not so far future. So keep an eye on AfriForum this year. We're going to be in the court seats this year for some very big cases. I see Anil says Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Thank you very much for tuning in. Sideliner Opinions, always a regular in the chat, says, good to see you back in action, CC. Thank you very much, Sideliner, for tuning in. Paula says, so well done for stopping smoking. Thank you very much. I do appreciate all the support. So I'm currently on a temporary laptop. My other one that I used is in the shop, so the camera might look a little bit different than it will in maybe a few weeks, but you can see there's some new decorations on the walls, some things that I hung up. This one next to me, the caracal cutout, is not currently fastened with a screw, so if it does fall off during the show, that will be a nice thing to clip, but I do hope that it stays up for tonight's show. But it's going to be a very a chill episode, but we're going to be going through some of the events that already happened in 2022 and then also what's on the horizon. Hardy Dave says he also stopped smoking. Oh, well done, man. Very much. Big congratulations. Anil says, I quit cold turkey, only hot sandwiches now. Defrater Watcher says, Conscious Caracal, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Defrater Watcher. Very nice to see you in chat on the first episode of the year. Christoph Smith says, I also stopped smoking about 2 days behind you. Excellent. Very, very great to hear. Wholesome comments. All right. So let's get into the title first of tonight's show. Let me just get that on stream. Let's see if I can still do this. Maybe I've completely become rusted in a month. Let's see. Share screen. Let's see if this works. Let's see here. I think I got it. There we go. All right. Is this better? No, it doesn't really make a big difference. Let's make it full screen. You don't have to see me. So, what we're seeing here is the fire that broke out in Parliament in South Africa, the South African Parliament in Cape Town this year in 2022. So, here's the thing. I chose this image specifically for the thumbnail because I think it's just ominous. It's really ominous. There's the entrance to the parliament, the smoke bellowing out, firefighters standing there. And then here's the interesting thing. Here's the part that I really wanted to highlight, and that's the text on the steps up to parliament with freedom and democracy, equality and diversity, unity and reconciliation, openness and participation, oversight and accountability, a reconstruction. I think that's what it is, a bit cropped off there, and development. Now, many of these terms under ANC rule have just been completely tarnished. I mean, there's no way in the under ANC government that you can say any of or many of these values are really held up to any level. So yeah, that's why I chose that as the thumbnail this year, or not this year, for this episode, because I really think it's a powerful image. It's an ominous image, like I said. That's why I made the title that 2022 started with an omen. I mean, the Parliament building is also a building rich in symbolism, a building that has a very significant place within the South African political pantheon of symbols. So that burning, already having a little bit of a tongue twister there. That burning building, or that building burning down, there we go, got it, is actually a very big symbolic event in regards to South Africa. I think my colleague Adams Roots said something similar this week. Let me just get that tweet in front of you that I don't misquote him. I don't think I have to put it on screen. I'll just read it to you, because I think there is something there to discuss. I think it's rich in symbolism and something that deserves some discussion. So Adams Roots tweeted that, oh man, I just had it in front of me, and then this laptop refreshed. So Adams Roots said, and I quote, "There's quite a bit of symbolism in the fact that F.W. de Klerk and Desmond Tutu passed away and the South African parliament burned down in a time frame of less than 2 months. Seems like an end of an era." Now, I completely agree. I think it is. Let me just, you've seen enough of the image. I still want to keep it up on screen, but that's not going to work. That's better. So I do think there is. I agree with my colleague Adams that there's a lot of symbolism there. It is an era. I mean, he doesn't elaborate on it, but maybe I can, in regards to how I understand the era that he's talking about. It's pretty much these big political symbols of the new South Africa. This whole project. I mean, in the 90s, they literally called it the South African experiment. Now they've softened up a little bit. It's now the South African project. Now, to put that very simply on what that means, the South African experiment was to see if you can take a country with a vast diversity of identities, religious, linguistic, racial, cultural, heritage wise. You take all those identities and you throw them into a union, and then you have them adopt a new identity, the proudly South African identity, the new South African identity. That was the experiment. And now that era is coming to an end as the experiment is unraveling, as it's falling apart. The vast majority of South Africans, when they're asked whether what their identity is or who they are, if they had to make a list, they will list their cultural or ethnic identity first before they, cultural, I think, in South Africa is the right word, because they would list, because there's linguistic identities as well. Ethnic identity would be you'd have to go a little bit into the definition. Let's take cultural identity first. I think that's the best way to describe it. People would say, well, I'm a Zulu, then I'm a Christian, then I'm a South African, like third. That's just an example. That's what you'd say or what you'd see. For example, my identity hierarchy, that's what I'm describing there. Everyone has a hierarchy of identities. Van Zyl Slabbert actually wrote about this, where you have certain identities that you're much more willing to give up. Your identity as a enjoyer of steak, your identity as a fan of Star Wars, your identity as um, a supporter of the Blue Bulls. These things are very easier to give up when compared to, relatively to, identities like your religion or your cultural identity or your heritage or your linguistic identity. I mean, I would give up my identity as a person that lives in Gauteng much easier, much easier than I would give up my identity as an Afrikaner or my identity as a Christian. But I would also, for example, give up my South African identity much easier than I would give up my identity as an Afrikaner or a Christian, for example. So let's put that into a reductio ad absurdum scenario. If I was asked, renounce your religion and you can keep your South African ID, I think I just demonstrated that I would pretty much, there wouldn't be a difficult decision for me to say, yeah, that ID is not important. But everyone has this hierarchy. There isn't a correct or a wrong one. Some people put their religion at the top. Some people put their culture at the top. Some people put their identity as a Zulu speaking person at the top. All these different conceptions. It's almost infinite in regards to the options that there are in regards of identity. But everyone's hierarchy is different. My hierarchy might be different from even another Afrikaner's, because he might put his identity as a South African higher, or he might put his identity as an Afrikaans speaker higher in the hierarchy. It doesn't mean that the other identities below that one are just non-important or insignificant. It just means that some identities he would much easier give up than others, and everyone has this hierarchy according to Van Zyl Slabbert's argument. And I think this applies to not just South Africa but the broader picture. But anyway, I have a bit of a digression there. Let me just, I think you've seen enough of the symbolism of that image. So yeah, we're already up to 29 people watching. That's very good for a first episode of the year after so much off time. So let's see here. Before I continue, let's just give some attention to the chat. Let's see here. Where was I last time? The chat's nice and relaxed, so I can actually read many of the comments. Thank you very much for tuning in. I don't think this is the Ikukreer that has the YouTube channel, but I have seen Iku in my live chat before. So this is the other Ikukreer without the umlaut. Goeienaand, Iku. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let's see here. Who else is tuning in? Red Sky Alice says, howdy, Adams. Glad I could I caught your show live for a change. Here's to a positive 2022 for you and your family. Thank you very much. I hope it's a positive 2022 for everyone's families. I really think it will. I hope it's a wholesome year for everyone. Let's see. Who else? Here we see. Sideline Opinion says diversity is not. Oh, he's talking to someone else in the chat. I don't think it would be productive to highlight the entire conversation, because then we just have the back and forth constantly. I see my good friend Odin Moja is in the chat, the host or co-host with me of the No Script Show podcast. We will be recording an episode very soon. He says, gotta head out. We'll catch the rest later. Good work, fam. Thank you very much, Odin. Mooi loop. Shamaya Saintle. Most of you will know him as Wotan ZA on Twitter. Let's see. Hardy Dave says, I identify as a child of God and sinner foremost. Lord have mercy. Anil says, America sure seemed to have the diversity thing working. It really depends on your conception of diversity. The whole American, there was the South African experiment, but there was also the American experiment. The American experiment was taking people, and this goes back hundreds of years when the country was founded. the whole idea was taking many ethnicities or different people with different national heritages and melting them together under the banner of American. You leave your German, Irish, Italian identity. You almost take it down a notch in the hierarchy of identities that I just described, and you put American as your top of the hierarchy. That was the American experiment. I think the next 10 years will be very enlightening in regards to that experiment and how it's going. Let's see. All right. I think I've. Oh, Anil asked a question. Anil asks, has the violence settled down in SA? Depends on what violence you're talking about. The unrest of 2021, yes, or insurrection, yes. That's settled down quite a while back. But the violence in general in regards to crime and farm murders is still a very big problem. So I can't say that that's gone, unfortunately. Tyrone Plint says, finally, I managed to tune in. Greetings and shalom from Israel. We are a pocket of South Africans enjoying your stream. Wow. Well, thank you very much for tuning in from a new corner of the world. I haven't had anyone give a shout out from your corner where you're tuning in from in my chat before. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, all right, let's get back to the rest of the show. I see just one more thing. Proudly Neanderthal says, "Good evening, my fellow apes." So, another thing that I wanted to talk about, Parliament fire. Maybe let's just finish maybe that topic. So, the Parliament fire has now been pinned on, or the main suspect, I should rather say, is a homeless man. His surname is Mafe. I think it's Zandile Mafe, and he managed to evade security and set the building on fire at key points. Very hard to believe. I don't have enough information to say he's definitely innocent or he's definitely guilty. We're going to have to see if more information comes out. The story is just strange. It's very strange. But yeah, that's one of the big themes within South Africa is the fall guy. And maybe he is. There seems to be a strong possibility that he might have been. Now, speaking of fall guys, 2022, one of the two big things are going to be big themes for this year, not just in South Africa, but in the broader world. In the broader world, Western world, South Africa, maybe in the other corners of the world as well. I haven't been watching too closely, intently there, for example, in the eastern parts and whatever. In the Western world specifically, and in South Africa as well, inflation is going to be a major issue. We are seeing that it's not just transitory, as was the narrative in America last year. Inflation seems to be ramping up. I think there was a reported 7% inflation the other day in America. That's bad. I think that was for the final quarter of last year, if I remember correctly. It must be. That's not good. That's very bad. In South Africa, I had an excellent conversation with my tobacco farmer friend, Herman. Just when was the Herman Ruiz was on the show second to last, I think, last year. We talked about inflationary pressures within the South African agricultural sector, and that's going to be hitting consumers in 2022. If you want the full details there, just go back a little bit on my channel and you'll find it. So yeah, inflation is going to be one of the big things. The thing about inflation is you can't just make it disappear through the narrative. Some other societal issues you can spin, you can, through very strong propagandistic energy, you can kind of hide for a while. Inflation is not that easy because what you're basically going to have to tell people is don't believe your lying wallets. That's not going to work. So you're seeing a lot of people scrambling, a lot of the commentariats, a lot of the cathedral scrambling to get a hold of the narrative surrounding inflation. So I've seen inflation isn't happening. I've seen inflation is not as it's happening, but it's not as bad. I've seen inflation is happening, but it doesn't hurt the poor. That gem comes from Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winner Paul Krugman. And then the last one I've seen is inflation is happening, but it's actually good. So yeah, they're very much scrambling to get a hold on the narrative. But yeah, inflation this year, watch that space. It's going to be a big issue, not just in the US, but in South Africa as well, and in many other Western countries. Another thing, this is what I actually wanted to get to. In South Africa specifically, when I was talking about Fall Guys, another thing that's going to be a big issue in South Africa this year is corruption. So the new dawn hasn't quite exactly happened. It's been 4 years since Cyril Ramaphosa has been at the helm. South Africa or the ANC has a new captain, but the ship is still steering directly at the iceberg, and someone is stepping on the petrol. So the ship hasn't really corrected to a different course. But Cyril Ramaphosa still has all his bootlickers pretty much saying, no, don't worry, Cyril just needs more time, just give him a bigger mandate. The other favorite excuse is, well, if we didn't have Cyril, imagine all the other ANC cadres that we could have in his place. Those people are worse. How much worse could it be? Let's look at Cyril's record for a little bit. I'm actually in the process of writing an opinion piece about this. So maybe I should give you a little sneak peek in regards to Cyril's record. So firstly, under Cyril Ramaphosa, we had the special investigative unit that investigates state corruption. Describe the scale of corruption that they've witnessed in 2020 as on a scale never before seen. That's under Cyril Ramaphosa. Under Cyril Ramaphosa, we saw some of the worst looting and unrest and rioting in South Africa's history since 1994. Under Cyril Ramaphosa, we've seen a load shedding record that's actually worse than Jacob Zuma's. I actually should put that on screen because a lot of you won't believe me. Let's just get that on screen. We've also seen, while that's loading, we've also seen the unemployment record broken twice. I think we're at around 34% unemployment now. That record's been broken twice under Cyril Ramaphosa. The latest one was also a record breaker. Okay, let me just put this on screen about the load shedding because a lot of people are, no, Aaron's, you're talking bullshit. Load shedding was the worst under Jacob Zuma. Check this out. Let's see. Share screen. I'm still not the lightning fast as I'd like to be. Let's see. So this is a tweet I made a while back. Don't let anyone excuse Ramaphosa with load shedding. It's getting worse under his administration. So there's energy shed upper limit, megawatt hours on a chart since 2007. So Ramaphosa took power in 2018. Does that chart look to you like someone that's in control of the energy crisis in South Africa? Does that look like a president that is fixing the energy crisis and taking it super, super duper seriously? That, my friends, looks like it's getting worse. I don't know about you. There's a comment in the chat that really actually caught my let me see, stop screen sharing. Okay. Willem Jansen van Rensburg says, so you're saying that there will be a special investigation to investigate the investigation? Yes, absolutely. Super duper special. So, with that out of the way, let's continue with Cyril Ramaphosa's stellar record. So, also something that people forget to say, well, Cyril Ramaphosa is this moderate within the ANC. If we had someone else like, David Mabuza or whatever, or Ace Magashule, we'd have all these radical policies being suggested. Under Cyril Ramaphosa, expropriation without compensation was tabled and tabled in before Parliament. Under Cyril Ramaphosa, we've had all this talk about national health insurance started, NHI, started under Cyril Ramaphosa, not under Jacob Zuma. It was tabled under Ramaphosa's watch. Also, It was Cyril Ramaphosa. People say this moderate president. He doesn't. Well, Jacob Zuma was this big liar. Ramaphosa at least tells the truth. It was Cyril Ramaphosa that in 2018 went on an international platform and said, I quote, "There are no killings of farmers or white farmers in South Africa." This is our current president, a president that will go on an international stage and tell that blatant lie. Oh, and he wasn't fact checked by the South African media either. Oh, no. What the South African media did was they wrote all these opinion pieces about what the president actually meant with his no murdering of white farmers comment. Give me a break. It's just, I mean, after state capture, we need to start talking about media capture. That's what's happened. Also, here's another thing. It was reported last year that it was Cyril Ramaphosa that gave the green light for Jacob Zuma's release on medical parole. Carter's looking after Carter's, man. Do you really think there's this gargantuan titanic battle between the Ramaphosa faction and the dastardly RET faction? No, there's not. There's like this little there's a struggle for power within the ANC, but at the same time, this is the same president that said, maybe I should play that video because it's so shocking. Let's see if I can find it first. This is the president that said that he would rather go down as a weak president than divide the ANC. You were like, well, that can't be Cyril Ramaphosa. That can't be my Cyril. It is, dude. Let me show you. Let me just find that video before people say no, it can't be. Can't be Cyril that said that. Not Daddy Cyril. Here we go. I hope that you get sound. I'm going to share the screen and play the video, but I hope you guys get the sound. Let's just get here. Share. All right. There we go.
And I said I would rather be seen as the weak president than to split the ANC, because that is not my mission. My mission is to keep really the ANC united. And
yeah, well, there's your president, guys, saying I would rather go down as a weak president than split the ANC. Also, it was I mean, we're already on to this guy's record. Let's go a bit deeper. Let's twist the knife. So it was Cyril Ramaphosa that appointed Bekele, the superstar of South African lockdown, the cat in the hat himself. I'm not going to use a more offensive word that some of my other mutuals on Twitter have termed him along those lines. So that was I wrote this opinion piece in Afrikaans, so that's why I started reading Afrikaans there. So it was Cyril Ramaphosa that appointed Bekele as the Minister of Police, and also it was Cyril Ramaphosa that appointed Fikile Mbalula, Mr. Fix, the only politician that calls him, well, the only person that calls himself that is himself, and he's also a minister that, when asked, I don't think he can name one thing that he has fixed, but he calls himself Mr. Fix and pretends like other people do as well. But then also, both of those ministers still enjoy their very, very integral positions as Minister of Transport and Minister of Police, appointed by Cyril Ramaphosa, kept in their position by Cyril Ramaphosa. Again, I asked the question, if this is moderate, if this is the best, and we need to put all our support behind Cyril because things could be much worse. Really? In 2013, Ramaphosa said that he told a crowd of people that if you don't vote, the Boers will come back to control us. His own quote, go Google that. In 2016, Ramaphosa said, and I quote, South Africans should aim to have principled and fearless leaders like Fidel Castro governing our country. Again, go Google that. Don't just believe what I say, research what I say. In 2019, when Cyril Ramaphosa hailed Robert Mugabe as a hero. Go check that out as well. In 2018, Ramaphosa uh, put emphasis on the fact and said that the ANC would welcome Julius Malema back into the ANC with open arms. Is this a moderate president? And let's finally let's end off with this one. In 2021, President Ramaphosa told the South African Communist Party, part of the tripartite alliance, he challenged the South African Communist Party to advance the agenda of socialism in South Africa. Again, go check that out for yourself. This isn't stuff that I'm just making up on the spot. You can go check it out. It's real. Now I ask the question again. Is this great moderate hope that people have been selling him as, huh? Guys, but anyway, keep an eye out for this opinion piece that I just quoted from. It will be out I think next week probably. And then you'll be reading a bit more. That was just a little bit of a taste of what I've written there. I see here we've got Koketso Rezane. Goeienaand. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. I also see Talula Moon is here. Good evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Manpatria podcast, another excellent podcast that I would definitely give my seal of approval to. Go check them out on Twitter, on YouTube, but you can also find them on Twitter. Very nice oaks. Definitely go check them out. Manpatria says Ramaphosa captured the media. Who needs the CCP? Exactly. That's been his big thing. Let's see. Manpatria says Adams is dropping mad bars here. Well, thank you very much. Check out that opinion piece when it comes out. It's going to be a it's going to be a big one. Let's see. Manpatria also says splitting the ANC is the best thing. SACP, South African Communist Party, and COSATU, the unions, need to go on their own ventures. Well, we can. Don't threaten me with a good time. Let's see. Let's give the chat a little bit of TLC before we continue. Koketso Rezane says ANC won't survive without COSATU. They would lose their mouthpiece towards the workers. Well, absolutely. That's a very good point. I completely agree. Let's see. Jay says sounds like some things Justin Trudeau might say. I think Cyril Ramaphosa and Justin Trudeau get along very well when they meet each other at all these fancy conferences. They're both Davos men. They're both like the typical Davos politician that was created in a lab. Let's see. Well, good question. Arctic says, Koketso, bigger question. Would COSATU survive if they left the ANC? Interesting. Maybe I'll have the Manpatria guys on my channel to discuss some of these questions. I think there's a lot to unpack. Oh, yeah. Just remembered. This whole conversation started with me talking about Fall Guys. So I laid out the argument against Cyril Ramaphosa being this moderate New Dawn guy who's going to save us. Ramaphoria. The other side of the coin is the big villain, the big baddie, the big boogeyman of 2022 is going to be Jacob Zuma and the dastardly RET faction. They're behind everything. You could see with the burning down of Parliament. You could see the smoke coming out of journalists' ears, not just the Parliament building that day, thinking of how can we blame and pin this on the RET faction. Zuma and his minions and his conspirators must be behind this fire somehow. Firstly, let me just get this out of the way. I'm not excusing Jacob Zuma of anything. I think he was a horrific president, a catastrophic failure, massive damage done under his administration, unparalleled corruption under his administration. Nothing of that I'm giving him a pass on. But he's not a villain in the mythical caliber of Jan van Riebeeck. You know this old cliche of when a South African politician gets grilled. He says, well, because Jan van Riebeeck is behind this, that's why. Or it's apartheid's fault. Everything is apartheid's fault. Everything from the ANC's record of corruption to SOEs falling apart, everything is apartheid's fault. When the dams aren't fully full, it's apartheid's fault because they built the dams too big. That's why they're not full. But we should be careful that it's Jacob Zuma's fault. It's the RET faction's fault. Doesn't become the new scapegoat on a serious note, just like Jan van Riebeeck and apartheid. I already see a lot of specifically liberals in this country jumping on that wagon. Oh, this must be that dastardly RET faction that's behind me stubbing my toe. It must have been Jacob Zuma that's behind me losing one of my socks this morning. That's the type of mentality that you're seeing, and it's never Cyril Ramaphosa's fault. You will never see any of these commentariat or any of these high-profile liberal commentators in South Africa point a finger towards Cyril Ramaphosa. Oh no, it can't be. It can't be Daddy Cyril. He speaks so well. That's their favorite line. He reads from a teleprompter so well. Wow, amazing. That's really leadership, that he can pronounce numbers. So that's what they always say about Jacob Zuma, is like, the man couldn't even pronounce this number. Like, okay, well, Cyril's doing nothing, but at least he can pronounce numbers and he can read a script off his little tablet. Okay, wow. But that's the thing. Cyril Ramaphosa has been in charge for 4 years. We need to ask the question, when does Jacob Zuma's legacy end? And when does Cyril Ramaphosa's legacy start? And what is Cyril Ramaphosa's legacy so far? Well, if you just rewind a little bit, everything that I listed there, that's his legacy. His legacy has been doing nothing. His legacy has been inaction. His legacy has been paralysis. His legacy has been putting his party before his country. That's been his legacy. And people are still making excuses for this, for this presidency and this administration. Can't be Cyril's fault. It is Cyril's fault largely. I'm not also going to elevate Cyril to some type of scapegoat and say he's at fault for everything. Well, I think the ANC itself are very close to being at fault for almost everything going wrong in South Africa today. I don't think that's hyperbole. But Cyril Ramaphosa is just a weak president. I mean, he said he's not afraid to go down as a weak president, and now a lot of commentators are even too scared to call him weak. What has he done? People are like, Cyril Ramaphosa's 4 years in charge can be characterized simply in essence as a bunch of liberal commentators, specifically white liberal commentators, begging him through opinion pieces and polite letters to, and I quote, please do something. That's all they do. That's been his presidency. It's just been doing nothing, and then people beg him to do something through their very finely written letters that he doesn't even read. But yeah, that's Cyril Ramaphosa in a nutshell. So don't fall for Ramaphoria, but also don't fall for Zumaphobia. That's my message on that regard, and that's my final thought on that topic. Let's see. There was some other things that I wanted to discuss as well. Yo, already 40 minutes in. Amazing. And viewership is looking excellent. Thank you very much, guys. I didn't think we'd get this bigger audience for the first episode of 2022. It really, usually the first episodes get off to a crawling start and then it picks up momentum. But yeah, it's been excellent so far. Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone with all your questions and comments in the chat. I really enjoy reading it, and I've been looking forward to interact with you guys again through this medium. So also leave a like if you want to help out the show. It really helps. If you're new to the channel as well, click that subscribe button for future episodes of this type of content, but also interviews. I've got some very nice interviews lined up for this year. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you're looking forward to it as well. Luel says, missed you. Thank you very much. I really miss doing this. It's very fun, and it's always an enjoyable thing, especially the chat. I sometimes forget to actually speak. I just read the comments, and that distracts me. Hardy Dave says, "Smash like for the algorithm." Thank you very much, Hardy Dave. You always tune into these streams. Okay, so Ramaphosa out of the way, can take that off the agenda for conversation tonight, for discussion rather. Here's another thing. Let's get into that. Let's see. Just need to get this on screen before I start with this dissecting this story. So something very interesting has happened this year with Julius Malema and his narrative regarding open borders. Some of you might know what's going on. Let me just see. To share screen. Here we go. So I tweeted out earlier today. 2019 Malema, and this is his quote: "No African is a foreigner in Africa." And he was this open borders hero. He was like, "We need a borderless Africa, and we need to, foreigners need to find creative ways of entering South Africa." All these types of very, very out there quotes about open borders, no foreigner in Africa. We're all African, whatever. And now suddenly Action SA appears on the scene out of the shadows, makes a big splash in the 2021 municipal elections. EFF embarrassing results in the 2021 municipal elections. And suddenly now Julius Malema is his new narrative is now will visit restaurants to check employment ratio of South Africans and foreign nationals. He puts out this media, whatever, this little press statement. But that's the funniest thing for me. It's just how that narrative shifts from first just 2 years ago at the most. He's like open borders, borderless Africa, Pan-Africanism. That's the other one. And I always said, like, it's the strangest position for me. I think just from a strategic, practical position, a slam dunk for the EFF would have been to be very strong nationalistic on borders and say, hey, we have a country with 34% unemployment. Maybe we should secure the border and stop a lot of this illegal immigration and mass illegal immigration into our country. That I always thought would have been a slam dunk. But the thing about the EFF is, judging by their stances like Pan-Africanism, their advisors, they're not hiring local. Their advisors are coming from abroad, probably most likely from cities like London or Washington. And they're being told the new hot thing is no borders, open borders. That's what the kids want. But that's not South Africa, though. South Africans are very concerned about their borders. South Africans don't want the country to be just a destination for the entire continent to stream towards. I think the majority of South Africans want the nation to have its hand on the tap, not complete halting of immigration, but strong regulations. But now Malema has finally realized that no, Pan-Africanism is not going to fly. It's just a stance that is supported by like rich university students and white tunnies in Cape Town suburbs. So I think that's why he's dropped it now, and especially with Action SA. For those that maybe don't know, especially my foreign listeners, Action SA is this center-right party headed by Herman Mashaba, South African businessman, ex-mayor of Johannesburg, that broke away from the DA, that started this new party that's strong on family, strong on free markets, but also strong on borders. That's one of their main things. They're one of the few parties that actually talk about borders and border security in a positive light. The DA doesn't talk. The Democratic Alliance, the biggest opposition party, doesn't touch the topic of borders from what I've seen. The ANC doesn't talk about it. They did that little 40 million rand border fencing farce in 2021, I think, or 2022. Patricia de Lille was in charge of it, and that border fencing is already destroyed. On that topic, my colleague Jacques Broederijk went to the South African border to shoot a documentary on what's going on there. It's excellent. I've been privileged enough to see it. It's going to be out in a few weeks, and I will be interviewing him about it. So keep an eye on that. It's going to be an AfriForum documentary. There's not really other South African parties that talk about borders and border security. Then Action SA comes onto the scene, makes that one of their main issues, and gets a very good result. Only me and Odin, Wotan Zede, were some of the few people that really were bullish on Action SA. The rest were saying no, they wouldn't even get 1%. They're not even going to get a single seat. But now you get all these oaks saying, "Oh, I always knew the Action SA would be a big player in 2024. They had the makings of a big player. I saw it." Okay, sure, buddy. Me and Odin have the me and Odin Moja have the receipts to prove it. Go check out my interview with Aram Mashaba on my channel. It was very good. But yeah, this is that's the flip flopping of Julius Malema and the masters of cope. The EFF supporters like, well, at least he can change his views on something. I respect that. Yeah, sure. If he was stubborn on the subject, you'd say I admire his his principled stance that he doesn't compromise on his principles. But when he compromises on his principles, like, oh well, at least he listens to the people and he changes his mind. Ideological position, man. So yeah, that's pretty much the flip flopper Julius Malema. I covered Adam Slutz's tweet. Yeah, the year ahead. I think this is going to be the year. I said on Big Daddy Liberty's stream the other night, Sichle and Gobi says that 2022 is going to have to be the year where we rehabilitate reality. It seems, and I mean, I might be wrong. I'm talking under correction. I'm not making a prediction. I hate making predictions. Like, as I said on Sichle's channel, when he asked me for predictions, I said I don't like making predictions because there's a very strong correlation between people that like making predictions and people that like deleting tweets and deleting videos. So I'm not big on predictions. I'd rather say I want what I want to see and what should happen, and that is a rehabilitating reality of this year. It does seem like with Omicron now being a less deadly variant of the virus, it does seem like herd immunity is happening across the world. It does seem like a lot of less people are dying of COVID, and it does seem that the virus is winding down the same pattern that most viruses go, where it becomes more infectious but less deadly. So that is a good sign for the year ahead. That might mean that we're going to start returning to normal. A lot of governments are not going to want to give up the powers that they've accumulated, and a lot of people that have turned COVID and COVID regulations into their identity, supporting lockdown, supporting vaccine mandates, those people are also pointing out people that are not following the rules. Those types of people are also not going to want to give up and go back to normal, because then they wouldn't have COVID as their little power fantasy anymore. They wouldn't feel important anymore. They wouldn't feel like they're fighting evil anymore. So those people are also going to exist. The people that are still going to be holding on tight to, we need to keep wearing masks, just like we wear seatbelts. Those people are going to exist, and you should mock them. If there's no danger, if there really is no reason to be wearing a mask, and let's say mask mandates are being removed all across the world, and there's still people clinging on to it. They say, well, everyone else, if you want to, go for it. And I'm not going to mock you if you personally want to do it. But if you're out there saying everyone needs to mask up again, if it's been removed, no, then I'm not for that. But then also ANC supporters this year. If you ever encounter ANC apologist, Ramaphosa apologist, Ramaphoria, new donor, I like to call them the new donors. If you meet a new donor, you should mock them to their face. Tell them, how can you, with a clean conscience, support a party that looted funds intended for the poor during a pandemic? How can you, with a clean conscience, support and make excuses for a president that is not firing any of the corrupt cadres under him? How can you support and make excuses for a president that doesn't have the backbone to fire a politician for corruption? That's the thing. That's what you need to ask them. Ask them the hard questions. Don't let them get away with it. But the same for the COVIDians, the same people that are completely crazy about regulations because they've created this identity around it. I really don't care if a mask makes you feel safer. Wear it if you want. I'm not gonna mandate you to wear it or not to wear it. But yeah, I think this year is the year we need to rehabilitate normality. after this year, it might start becoming a lot more difficult to go back to the old world. And a lot of these regulations might stay vestigial, like, for example, uh, a lot of the security regulations around us, since, for example, any type of global threat comes along, there's always all these regulations coming in. But yeah, here's the thing. Uh, this year also, don't get too obsessed with just the nitty gritty of the politics. Also, make sure that your own household is in order. And I mean, uh, I have a vast diversity of people in my audience. People that think Jordan Peterson can say no wrong. People that criticize him. People that think he's a charlatan. I've got a lot of different views in my audience, and I like that. I like the fact that it's there. But I'm going to plagiarize him a little bit with that, in regards to, I do think he is onto something when it comes to, you need to make sure your house is in order first. You need to make sure that your household is fine before you try to save the world. And this is where my own thoughts come in regards to that. Is, and I've said this on a previous stream, is that I think it's a very foolish endeavor to try to save the world. A lot of us, when we were younger, we were told you need to grow up to save the world. I don't think that's very good advice. I actually think it gives people, it puts them on the wrong path, because you're never going to be able to save the world. You're going to try, you're going to fail miserably, and then you're going to be demoralized and blackpilled. Don't even try to save your entire country. Save what you can, save what's possible. So don't try to clean up your entire country of litter. If there's litter in your street or in your backyard, pick that up. Don't try to save the entire country or world from before I can, I'm on a serious note, but Corona's boring. Do the alien thing, says save the cheerleader. Yeah, so some people will know what that reference is. Yeah, so now you've completely derailed my train of thought. Make sure these small things are in order first. Save your community, save your household, save your family. Don't try to save the world. It's a foolish endeavor. Make sure those things are in order. And also, that stream of mine where I talked about build, plant, create, 2020 is going to have to be that year where you use your God-given talents to build, to plant, to create, to really put content and things that you've created out there, whether that's music, writing, woodworking or carpentry, gardening, botany, painting, drawing, all these creative endeavors. I think you should pursue it. Even if you're not perfect, you don't have to be a master. Each one of you has a God given talent for something creative or something that you're good at creating or building or planting. Use that talent, accumulate skills. Don't fall into that trap of always thinking that when you start doing something, you're going to be either immediately good at it because you're talented in that thing, or not, and you're going to give up if you're not immediately talented. Nobody starts off with anything and being just immediately good. Get good, get better, improve, but also you have specific talent for things, and identify that God gave you and pursue it. Start creating this year, even, and share that creation. I know a lot of people are insecure about sharing the stuff that they create because it's not perfect, or they're kind of nervous about what other people might say. But I think share it with other people, even if that's just sharing with your close family members or your close friends. Share what you've created or written or painted. Show them what you've done, the fruits of your labor, the fruits of your efforts. And they will give you very valuable advice and feedback, and it will encourage you to do more, to improve. Really, trust me on this. Last year, I started a vegetable garden. I'm actually planning now, and it's been a big success. There's been a lot of failure attached to it as well. A lot of things didn't work out as I planned. A lot of plants didn't yield as much as I wanted. But I'm going to do a stream on that. I'm going to talk about the lessons that I've learned and the things that worked and what didn't. And that stream is going to be on this channel in the near future. So before I continue and with my final thoughts, let me just check here some of the comments. Brendan Hill says, Amen. Absolutely, brother. Let's see what else. Luel says, grow up and save yourselves, reduce dependence on governments and institutions, become state proof. That's what I say. And the stance of AfriForum and the solidarity movement as well. Let's see. Hottie Dave says, build, plant, create. That's my advice. Afraid to Watch says, life is short. Enjoy the journey. You only get one ticket. And do something meaningful, even if it's small. Luel says, home nursing, home budgeting, homeschooling. And we have our first super chat of 2022. Before I read that, Brendan Hill says, big plays. And then Corona's boring. Do the alien thing says, I describe farming as a series of lessons in humility. I think my friend Herman Ruas would definitely agree with you. And then Hardy Dave, the first super chat of 2022. Hardy Dave gives $70. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. 70 Rand. And he says, thank you, and you're loved. Well, thank you very much, Hardy Dave. I'm glad people appreciate my content. I really enjoy creating it, and I enjoy interacting with my audience and the people that tune in. Katie says, I've done something similar with ornamental plants, which just brings beauty into people's lives. Absolutely, it's something living. If you take a plant it doesn't have to have a vegetable or a fruit, it can just be ornamental. You can put it in your household, but you have to look after it and you have to keep it alive. It's responsibility, but with responsibility comes freedom, and with responsibility also comes enjoyment. What's it? Jocko Willink says discipline equals freedom. Well, that's also partly true. Well, largely true. Hardy Dave says, be blessed, 70 Rand, because God provides. Thank you very much, Hardy Dave. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so as we're winding down, I'm going to let you guys know with very big pleasure that my show is still sponsored by Bitvice this month. And Bitvice has been kind enough to sponsor this episode as well. So Bitvice is the only place in South Africa that sells Bitcoin direct to your self-custody, meaning that unlike a traditional crypto exchange, you don't have to trust anyone to hold your Bitcoin for you. This removes the largest risk associated with Bitcoin. If you are interested in learning about Bitcoin, check out the podcast By the Horns. It's available on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. The Bitvice crew and hosting the By the Horns podcast release weekly episodes and focus specifically on the South African context surrounding Bitcoin. The Bitvice team has been hard at work making some changes to their product over the past few months. You may remember that their minimum purchase size was 20,000 Rand, but that has been reduced to 5,000 Rand recently. You can now buy Bitcoin directly to your hardware wallet in a matter of seconds. There's a link to that in the description. If you just want to go check it out in regards to if you want to get into crypto, go check them out. Maybe you learn something. Maybe they give you the advice that you need. And thank you very much for sponsoring this episode, Bitvice. Then Luel says, keep nothing, not beautiful nor useful. Here's the second super chat of 2022. Thank you very much to Leuven Janse van Rensburg. Thank you, baie dankie. Really appreciate it. He says, welcome terug. I like your picture on that wall behind you. Thank you very much. I bought it at the hospice for the price of a cup of coffee, and it's a real painting of an African savanna. I really love it. But then also there's this. I don't know if you were talking about this picture, this metal cutout of a caracal that I got from a very good friend. That's also added to the background to add to the atmosphere of these streams. Hardy Dave says, amen. So thank you very much again, Leuven Jans van Rensburg, for the generous super chat. Really appreciate it. Sideline Opinion says, oh, no, he's talking to someone else in the chat. All right, so final thoughts. 2022, the year you build, plant, create. I hope you build, plant, create, and the year that we need to rehabilitate normality. I'll be there with you fighting for that, and also building, planting, and creating. So don't think that you'll be alone. And it will also be the year that I continue with Stream of Consciousness, talking to interesting people, also doing this discussion where I just hang out with the chat. Nothing too heavy, just talking about maybe some current events, but then also some bigger picture stuff. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. Really appreciate it. I'm blown away by the amount of audience we have already in the first episode of 2022 after this hiatus. It's very nice. It gives me a lot of encouragement for the year ahead. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. You can leave a like to help out the channel. You can also subscribe if you're new and you like this type of content. If you're not watching live, you're watching on catch up. You can also leave and unfortunately you can't take part in the live chat anymore, but you can still put your thoughts in the comment section. I read all of them, respond to as many as I can, and I'm looking forward to read some of those comments as well. Thank you very much for everyone that tuned in, and I'm going to read just one or two comments before I say goodbye. Koketso says, as long as it's not build back better. Leuven Jans van Rensburg says altwee en by the way Erns ek is nou ek is 'n ou vrou nie hy nie wel baie jammer. Jammer tannie en baie dankie vir die super chat en dankie vir die komplimente vir die wat in my agtergrond is ook. Ja, ek dink laas keer as ek reg onthou was dit twee van julle wat op daai profiel gekyk het. Maar ja, jammer dat ek vir Tannie misgender het, as ek daai term kan vat van die Amerikaners af. The Freighter Watcher says, thank you, take care everyone, be well. Brendan Hill says, dankie Ernst. Sideline Opinion says, cheers Ernst, all the best for 2022, mooi loop. Hardy Dave says, may your channel grow 70 times this year. Wow, that would be amazing. Willem Jansen van Rensburg says, keep well people. Last one, Katie says, cheers, love your content. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. God bless. And remember, this year, think for yourself, think ahead, and also keep your faith and keep moving forward in regards to all the challenges ahead of you. Keep pushing and keep specifically your faith and then also hope for the future. Don't take the black pill. It's not worth it. It just pacifies you. Anyway, cheers, guys. Have a good one. God bless. Check you.